Hey, you're back at the Untitled SEO podcast with me, your host, Andrew Laws. Now, this is series 2 of the Untitled podcast, and this is all about LAN, not, oh my God, I don't actually know what the original version of LAN means, but it's like networky stuff. So this is live action networking. I realized many years ago in SEO and the creative industries that we're not very good at talking to people. I mean, we're kind of okay to a certain extent, but we don't really get to know each other that well. If you see somebody who's in the creative industry in a room full of networkers, they're either speaking to the other creative people or possibly looking a bit shy sometimes. So the whole point of this series is to get people I don't massively know well and get to know them live on a podcast recording. So to that end, I have with me today Ste Clarke. Ste, do you want to say hello?
Hey everybody, thanks for having me on here, Andrew. Nice to be here.
I think I'm going to have to address the elephant in the room. Ste has COVID, bless him.
Yeah, I apologise for this sexy voice. It's better than it was 2 days ago. I sounded like Barry White on 60 mile per hour a day, so I do apologise, everybody.
Are you? I'm trying to remember. Am I right in thinking you're a musician? Or did I just imagine that?
No, you've imagined that, but please feel free to do that. That really makes me feel far sexier than I actually am. So please carry on.
I've played in loads of bands, and vocalists are like, "I've got a cold. Quick, record vocals." And I'm like, wow, you sound brilliant.
No, I've got an extensive vinyl collection. Maybe that's where the music things come in.
It could be, but let's say this is the whole point of the live action networking. It's kind of getting to know you. So I do know a little bit about you because all the guests on here do sign a kind of a release form, which kind of helps me get to know them a little bit. And I'm going to start with the same question I ask everybody. Did you deliberately move into the creative stroke digital marketing world, or was it a choice that was thrust upon you?
It was a bit of both, really. So I've been a professional writer for about 6 years now. Prior to that, I was a taxi driver, believe it or not. Um, and I used to do the night shift and the weekends, so you get the lowest form of human life, basically, interacting with me. I would come home every morning and go, God, I hate this job. I wish I could bottle this horrible feeling and just drink some of it so I don't have to go out and repeat this endless cycle over and over again for the next couple of nights. And then I sat down and thought, that would make a really good story, you know. And I ended up writing a story about it, a novel, which was
a whole novel.
A whole novel came out of that. Yeah, it wasn't very good, but it was very cathartic, and I realised that I really enjoy writing, and I was actually pretty good at it. So I then put all my efforts into becoming a writer from there on. So I wasn't thrust upon it; it was a choice, but I suppose it was in the wings for quite a while. I was just kind of stumbling from job to job, wondering what it is that I was eventually going to do with my life. And it turned out that writing was my calling. So, yeah.
So do you enjoy writing when you were at school, or did it?
I was good at English. English was always my favourite subject. I think I came top of the year in GCSE. I don't know. It was a long, long time ago. But yeah, I don't know what it is. It's kind of between leaving school and, you know, going through these different jobs, life gets in the way and you kind of forget what you used to love. Like I used to love drawing, that kind of thing. And yeah, life, like, you know, like you learn so many different things as you're growing up that you forget the things that, you know, gave you those passions in the first place sometimes, I think. So
I do think it's sometimes a bit of a trap. I mean, the world I come from is, you know, initially going to events in squats and being sort of very much part of the DIY punk scene. So
yeah,
the sort of jump on the job treadmill thing. You know, a lot of my friends, even now, people I work with, it sort of never occurred to them. But I have got really good friends who, you know, did school, university, you know, postgraduate job, and then get into their 30s and kind of go, what the hell am I doing with my life? And I'm not saying you did that at all, but I always think it's really interesting that especially that seems to happen in the creative industry. So people who make stuff, it's quite often I meet them, they've actually done a job doing something that you wouldn't necessarily see as part of a career path to that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just, I don't know. I think I'm a kind of the last generation who was told you basically going to go and work at Asda for the rest of your life. You can never possibly make a living doing
What?
something creative.
How old are you?
43.
Oh man, yeah. So we're really close. Well, I'm either 46 or 47. I genuinely would have to calculate it to see which it is. But yeah,
Yeah, I've
we
never.
were go on.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that yeah, that's what we were told at school. You know, you obviously went to school probably several hundred miles away from where I did. I went on the east coast down the south near Ipswich, and you have a less southerly accent.
Is it that obvious?
Well, when you said about your sexy voice earlier, I was thinking, is he talking about his northern accent, or is he just like bragging here? But yeah, I can remember going to the school careers office and them saying, "What is it you want to do for a living?" I said, "I want to be a writer." And they're like, "No, next." Well, I
Yeah,
want to be a musician. They're like, "No, you're gonna. That's not going to happen." And I
yeah.
ended up doing nursing for a while.
Yeah, we were exactly the same. You go to your careers officer, and if you didn't want to be a professional footballer, you were going to work in a warehouse for the rest of your life.
Mm,
You know, if you say, I want to be a writer, they laugh at you.
yeah,
So, but, obviously times have changed, and, as long as you've got a mobile phone in your hand, you can do whatever you like as a business. And I think that's something that the people of today have got growing up that we didn't have. Well, we were literally told, you're going to be nothing. Suck it up and get on with it, kind of thing.
I think one of the interesting things, especially for the younger generation now. So I've got a daughter who's 12, and a big part of her creativity is video making.
Yeah,
And for one thing, that would have been a challenge in the late 80s, early 90s. I did do it, but it was a challenge to be able to make videos. But the biggest obstacle to actually deciding if there was a possibility of doing anything like writing for a living was that you couldn't find an audience very easy. Everything was relying on agents. You know, for if you're a writer,
yeah,
for filmmaking, it would be, I guess finding a producer or something like that. There was always somebody else you had to go and seek validation from before actually carving out your niche as a creative. Whereas now, for my daughter can make a video, and within 5 minutes of making it, it can have 2,000-3,000 views on YouTube or TikTok. So there's your audience. So what more validation do the younger people need? And I think I wouldn't say we suffered for it as kids, but if you had your time again, and this is a terrible cliche question, but if you had your time again, would you have just gone hand nuts to it and just stuck with writing early on?
no, I don't think I would. I was a very, very nervous kid. Had no confidence whatsoever in myself. Um, and it took a lot for me originally to kind of write something and then actually show somebody, because I was
Mm.
terrified I'd get the whole pointy finger, ha ha, you're no good kind of thing, and I couldn't have coped with that. But excuse me, I did get over it obviously eventually. Um, but I think the thing you were saying earlier about, we didn't have those same avenues, I think in a way that kind of made us a little bit stronger, because we didn't
Okay.
have all these avenues. We had to work that much harder to go and get it. Um, so, for example, I think if I wasn't writing, I would have loved to have been a Foley artist. Now, if people out there don't know what a Foley
Wow.
artist is, it's the people that do kind of the voice effects for movies. So, for example, The Exorcist, the little girl's head turns around.
Hmm.
That was done by a guy got an old leather wallet and just held it up to a microphone and started scrunching it up, and that's the noise of the little girl's neck turning around. I would have loved to have done that, but me growing up in a working class coal mining town, going to the careers officer and saying, I want to be a Foley artist. Can you imagine?
It's wild. You're the first person I've ever met who wanted to do that, and I know a lot of people or mutual friends of ours who work in video making, and I can say the film industry, but no, I do know people who work in the film industry. And Foley artist is such a specific thing.
Yeah,
It's such a very, very specific thing. But I
yeah.
can see that what was it? Was it because it felt magical, or what was it that drew you to wanting to be a Foley artist?
Yeah, just because it's so creative. You know, whether I'm writing or doing a video or drawing or whatever it may be, I just love being creative, and I think that to me at that point in time, and it still is magical to me. That is the ultimate creation. It's taking something that doesn't exist, putting a noise to it, and making it a reality. So I don't know. You're watching Godzilla. Obviously, a Godzilla does not exist where you can go out and just
What?
record a Godzilla. You've got to go out and get all these different components and then make it a reality. So that to me is fascinating.
I think everything creative comes down to making something where something did not previously exist.
Yeah,
And I think I was thinking about this the other day, and it's not because I'm a middle-aged man, but I was thinking the legacy that creative people leave in the world, in their families, and in their careers, and in the business community, is quite vast. Because there's people in this world who are very, very good at perfecting things, and very good at creating systems, for example. And I want to make it very, very clear, I'm not down on the skills of anyone who isn't creative, because quite frankly, if everyone was creative, the world would be screwed.
I agree. Yeah,
If everybody just wanted to make stuff, we'd be in real trouble. But there's something quite magical about the fact that if I cark it tomorrow, and I very much plan to stay alive for a very long time, there's all this stuff. There's albums. There's book like you. I've written books. There's tangible things that anyone who involves themselves in trying to experience anything I've created will get a little bit of me. So it's a little bit like making yourself immortal, being a creative.
yeah. It's a nice legacy to leave behind. I think, like you say, there's always something tangible there, whether it's physical or digital. But I also think conversely, sometimes we get dumped upon a little bit. And what I mean by that is people are kind of, I'm not saying this is true of everybody, but I've met a number of people, and I'm sure you have, where you display that you've got an artistic skill, whether that's, as you say, musicians, painting, drawing, writing, whatever it may be. And people are in awe of that. They go, wow, how do you do that? And then you tell them how much you want to do that, and they go, whoa, no, sorry. It's like you take your car to the garage. You don't question how much your car is going to cost to repair. You just pay it. But if somebody creative comes to you and says it's X amount, suddenly people start bartering with you. And I say that obviously this isn't true of everybody, but I've experienced that a number of times. I don't know if you have.
I certainly have, and I think it's partly because of this weird Puritan or sort of Protestant work ethic thing, which I don't I don't like. And it's the idea that if you haven't got calluses on your hands and you haven't broken a sweat, then you've not earned anything.
Yeah,
And my
yeah,
God, those people, I've done a lot of manual labor jobs. In fact, that's why I then got into what I do, because I did so many agency jobs that did nearly kill me, because I am not fit, strong, or anything, that I just kind of went, look, my body is just going to just crap out if I carry on like this. And that's why I made the conscious decision to do something else. But what I found is the clients who do appreciate the creativity generally are the best ones to work for. I've got one client who, we were in a meeting and we needed to, actually it was about writing. We needed to present something. We needed to present an idea that they had that they wanted to get through to their clients and prospective clients. And I said, well, obviously just call it this. And she went, what? And I said, well, it's quite straightforward. That's what you're trying to get across. These are the right words to use. And she's the managing director of a company that she founded, and the previous company she worked at, she took to £1 billion. So she knows, she really knows her stuff. And she said, no, what you're forgetting there is that you're a creative and I'm not so much of that. I was like, but you built this amazing business. She said, yeah, because I know when to speak to creative people.
yeah.
I know when the creative people solve the problems, and sometimes I solve the problem. I'm talking in her voice now. I was going to do like an impression, but that'd be a bad idea. And, she said, I'm paraphrasing here, but she knows how to do what she does very, very well, and she's very good at it. But she acknowledges that without speaking to creative people, and she views us as mysterious animals, like these sort of like
I quite like
creatures
that.
creatures almost, but to her it's so alien. And I just went, well, obviously it's that. And she's like, no, it's obvious to you. And at that point, I kind of went, yeah, creativity, well, it should be celebrated. Hell, we do celebrate it, all the time. But you can kind of feel like, society doesn't perhaps value it as much as being able to. I don't know. I can't say anything because any profession I choose is going to sound like I'm being down on that profession.
No, I know what you're trying to say. Like you say, I'm not trying to I'll start that again. I know what you're saying. I know I'm not trying to tar everybody with the same brush. The people that do appreciate us really appreciate us, and that's really gratifying. And once I kind of got over the fear of myself, I found that that's one of the best parts of being a professional creative writer. When you can take somebody's problem that they're stumped with, as you were saying there, and you can go, oh, actually, just do this. And they look at you and go, wow, how have you done that? It's like you've just pulled it straight out of my head. That's really gratifying.
It's a real skill. And I think anyone who is listening who hasn't worked with a creative copywriter, and I don't like to put all copywriters in the same group because we're a diverse bunch. I don't want to say I'm we. I don't write very much anymore, but the creative copywriter's skill is represented best when they're selling it as not give me this amount of money or get this many words on a page. It's much better sold and better understood by buyers as it's problem solving.
Absolutely.
The fact the problem is that you need a blog post and you don't want to write it. That is a part of the problem.
Yeah.
But so often I've sat down with someone. I was with a client earlier today, and they want to attract a certain audience in a certain part of the country. And they said, well, we want to get them onto a mailing list. I said, how are you going to do that? And they said, well, we don't know. We don't know at all.
Right.
I said, well, what are you going to give them? Well, I don't know. Do we have to give them? Anyway, I'm not going to tell you the whole conversation. The end of it came about with a really nice idea that we conjured up between us to attract this audience that they want to attract. And I've got a really good feeling that it's going to work. But it wasn't just me walking into the room and going, right, you need 500 words on a blog post. What do you want to cover? It doesn't. See, one of the unintended benefits I don't think people who haven't worked with copywriters don't get is that if you work with a copywriter, it makes your business better.
Yeah. And I mean, you said in your intro, your copywriting's quite an insular job. I kind of sit here on my own, pasty, avoiding the sunlight as much as I can. But the collaboration thing is really nice when you get into a room and you start thrashing ideas around, and the initial idea becomes so much more than what it started out. That again is really nice because, as I say, prior to going full time being a writer, I did endless jobs in customer service and what have you. So I've gone from kind of worrying whose turn it was this particular day to give me crap at work, whether it's the customers, the boss.
I shouldn't laugh. That's terrible. It's the way you describe it, though. You present it so nicely.
I don't sugarcoat it. It's working with the general public is hard work sometimes. They can be absolutely horrible, especially if they're on drugs and drink. If you're a taxi driver, but I digress. So to go from that to choosing who I want to work with, to being creative, to do what I love and get money for that, and to see people's faces light up because the problem that I have solved for them doing something that I love, it's night and day. It's so nice. It's so nice. I get to speak to people all over the world regularly, Australia, America, Kuala Lumpur, instead of the people that live within a 2-mile radius of my town and will never leave. It's it's like Royston Vasey will never leave. So to go from that little insular kind of pocket to a worldwide kind of web of web.
There's something in that name, isn't
there? Something in there. Yeah, might have to write that one down. Yeah. of experiences and and influence and knowledge. It's so gratifying, and I really really enjoy what I do.
Excellent. This is turning into a real celebration of kind of the freedom of being self-employed and of copywriters. I was thinking, right, what could I condense that down to? The listening to clients and helping them solve problems. And I realised that there is an element of being a copywriter where you're a counsellor
Yes.
and a coach,
Yeah,
and
100%.
that's why a really good copywriter isn't necessarily someone who just sits in a darkened room hammering away on a keyboard. It's somebody who wants to help people. I think that's a real intrinsic part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, excuse me, I'm not the first writer to say this, but being a writer isn't just writing. I'd say it's about 20% writing. The other 80% is research and, as you say, sort of problem solving and being a bit of a counsellor, holding people's hands, directing them in a certain direction, putting them off from a certain direction. It's that bit that allows you to do that final 20%. But without that, I think the final product would be rubbish.
Here's a question for you. I'm going to ask you this because, from a purely selfish point of view, when I'm into a topic and I really want to know about it, I always want to know what mechanical devices the creators use. And I've been reading about, reading up, I should say, because I'm reading a few books about writing humor at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I've done writing humor, not so much for clients, but I've written for magazines and stuff for years where they employ me because I write funny, but I just pull it out of thin air.
Yeah.
I don't. It comes from experience. And if I'm telling a story about something happened to me, it's really easy. But I've learned about writing joke webs at the moment. So piece of paper, you write something down, and then it's an actual mechanical process. And it's a book I read written by one of the joke writers from Who I Got News for You.
Okay.
So in your writing, have you found that once you turned professional, you had to start developing frameworks, or do these things come naturally to you?
Um, it
It's a hell of
comes.
a question, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've never really thought of it in those terms. It sounds a bit silly in that I would probably still term it as winging it and just going with the flow. But no, I don't. Excuse me. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry.
That's all right. You're 22 minutes in, and that's the first cough. Considering you've got COVID, you've done that. That's good. The odds are good there.
Excuse me. Right. Oh, let's try that one again. Oh dear. No, it's a really interesting question. I don't have any frameworks. I just go with my heart. You could call that flying by the seat of your pants, I suppose, but it seems to work out so far. I don't know. I wouldn't like to call it intuition because that sounds a bit arrogant, but I do tend to just get a feel for whatever it is that the person is telling me how to write for them, and 8 times out of 10, I'm pretty much there on the first or the second draft. I could say I know that sounds incredibly arrogant, but I think that goes back to when I did that story when I got out of taxiing. It just felt natural. It really did. It just felt as natural as breathing, and I think that's why I thought I've really found my purpose here because I
I don't think
didn't. I wouldn't say I didn't. I don't have to try it. Of course, I have to try it, but it does kind of roll off the tongue more
I
often
don't
than
think
not.
it's arrogant in the slightest. Writing's a muscle.
Yeah,
The more you do it, the better you get at it. You when you start, you're probably quite slow, and the more you do it, the faster you get. And it's like any skill that you learn. You eventually you solve an issue, or you solve a challenge. You should say. I don't like to say issue. You solve a challenge, and you solve an opportunity. Just to really push that as far as I can. You solve an opportunity, and that opportunity will come round in 6 months' time or a year's time for somebody else. And you kind of go, "Oh yeah, I've been there. I know what to do here." And
yeah,
when you've been writing for as long as you have, you've probably seen a lot of those opportunities now.
very true. Yeah, you're right with what you're saying. It is a muscle that you have to exercise, and it's a muscle that I really enjoy exercising. It's a shame I can't say that about for the rest of my body, but
Your brain's fit as anything.
Brain's fit as anything. Yeah, the body is another matter. But hey ho.
I think that's a quite a fun note to end it on, Steve. I really appreciate your time. We'll put links to your site and your press coverage about your murder mystery novel. We'll put that in the show notes. Is there any final thought you'd like to leave listeners with?
It's basically, don't be afraid of doing what you want to love. Try again.
I'll quote you on that. That can be
Yeah,
a show title.
that's going on my gravestone. That Jesus. What would I say? I would say don't be afraid of doing something that you love. Don't be told that you can't do it. You can do it. If your heart's in it, if it's in your blood, if you really feel like you should do it, then go ahead and do it, and don't let anybody tell you different.
Damn straight. I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?
I'll say goodbye. Thank you very much for having me on. I've loved this. It's been great. Thank you.